How is everybody?
Good.
Yay.
This piece is called Tuesday. He never went there on Tuesdays. In fact, he hated Tuesdays. He had barely been able to survive the excruciating Monday, but now Tuesday too? Darrell was beginning to think he hated all days beside Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. He hated his job, despised his co-workers, and now was called in to work on Tuesday. He had a reason to hate Tuesdays, and most never knew why or simply did not care to ask him about the sour look on his face when they seen him around town. But he had a reason to hate it. That's where the story begins, and his life ended in a way. Not literally, of course. He was coming back from helping his brother move when he got the call. It was Tuesday. Walking home as Darrell did most nights to take a breather. It was his wife on the phone, Carly. He remembered how beautiful she looked the first time he met her. Her soft brown hair blowing in the wind. Her white sundress, he thought to himself that he had never seen anything so innocent as her. She sounded upset, real upset, and Darrell pictured tears from her face as she tried to tell him what had to be told. What he always feared, now he was certain he would hear her say, "Honey, tell me what's going on. What happened?" His voice now as shaky as Carla's. "The baby." She is having trouble speaking now because the words seem to be too much and the tears too great. "Where are you, Carla?" Darrell has now broken into a jog that soon turns into a run. He must get to her. He knows she needs him. "Honey," he says, but hears no response on the other end of the phone. Darrell looks at the phone, which is now flashing her number, showing that she is no longer on the line. Carly collapses onto the hard, thick, unforgiving concrete of the sidewalk. People passing by begin to make a crowd around her. Now as each minute passes, it becomes larger. "Call the police. Hurry," a woman yells to her husband. As Darrell turns the corner, he sees all the people gathered and he joins them and breaks through the crowd and sees his fragile wife lying on the sidewalk. The ambulance arrives and he yells for the EMTs to hurry because his wife is pregnant. Darrell rides in the back of the ambulance with his wife holding her hand. He was just shocked when he first saw her lying on the sidewalk that he must not have noticed that she was no longer carrying their baby. Whenever someone asked Darrell what he wanted to be when he grew up as a child, he would tell them, "A good dad." He knew his dad was bad, but he did not discuss it with anyone. The memories were far too painful of the abuse and neglect his dad put his mother and him through. The ambulance ride brought back bad memories. He had only been in an ambulance once before, when he was 5. It was the time his dad beat his mom so bad that she was hospitalized for a week because of a concussion. She had tried to leave with him when the abuse had become too much. His dad had come home early from work that late October and caught them leaving. 5 years later, they were able to leave with the help of a victim advocate who helped provide a place up in the mountains. Darrell thought maybe he could forgive his dad in some way. He had a child of his own and made up for his dad's anger over the years. Right then, he was back to reality as his wife suddenly awoke and reached for him. She needed him. She needed to be held like the baby they would not have. Tears falling on her rosy cheeks as he held her close in this time of despair, neither saying anything for a time. He knew no words could repair their heartache, so he just held her close and began to cry with her. Darrell and Carly spent the night in the hospital together until she was released in the early morning. It was a beautiful day, but inside Darrell was wounded. Weeks passed with little talk between the two of them. Early one morning, Darrell awoke to the sound of the phone ring. It was Carly's mom on the other end, and she asked how Darrell was and to speak to Carly. After Carly was off the phone, she sat with Darrell at the kitchen table and discussed the idea of adoption with him. It was Tuesday. They both agreed on the idea and were soon enrolled in classes to adopt a baby boy. In between classes, he begins to write to start to heal the wounds of loss.
Alright, my piece is entitled Necromancias. Two heads greet the arrivals at the cemetery gates. "Welcome," they both say slowly with evident thought deliberation. The visitors say nothing but proceed, shrouded through the threshold between life and death. Past the doormen who are forever stuck on pikes, forever stationary, a piece of rotted and weathered wood, for torsos and gnarled, flesh-eaten arms, for the lamps that cast their eerie glow hardly farther than the entrance that is swallowed in darkness. The demon steps out of her back, water running down her moon-pale body in ripples, her black raven wings outstretched by will of their own, seemingly freed from their watery prison. Black eyes scan the surrounding room, penetrating their vision through stone walls to survey guests for tonight's festivities, beginning to gather within the inner sanctum. Rain beats down harshly upon the man, making him cringe at the onslaught. He's under cover of wood, but the pine canopy provides very little protection. He grits against the wind in elemental punishment and continues on, finally glancing upon a faint bluish glow. 2 of them, he confirms, about 50 yards away. Do you see that? Do you see that over there? He asks one of the members of his troop. I do, answers the actor, but that sort of light makes me nervous. Me too, acknowledges the first man. But do we really have any choice? The second man shrugs silently in the dark. No, we'll catch hypothermia out here and wander ourselves to our death if we don't find shelter soon. Agreed, go tell Johann and Gute that we'll head this way, the first man says, gesturing towards the distant illumination. Be right back, he replies, disappearing into the dark once more to inform the straggling friends of their plan. The troop arrive at the front gates and are greeted by the 2 pike heads, which have seemed to have found respectable bodies accompanied with and covered by coats and trousers. Welcome, they say, and then, we aren't expecting any other visitors tonight, but we're sure there's plenty of room for a few more, people. We're grateful for your hospitality, the leader of the troop expresses before leading his performers into the party that can be heard coming from within the towering, dilapidated church that stands, ominous, in front of them. Be sure to make your presence known to the lady of the house, sirs, comes the gatekeeper's collected voice from behind them. Mid-tempo organ music drifts through the sanctum as the foursome make their way inside. The musical instrument seems to be on autopilot upon closer inspection, which appears curious but is passed off soon enough as a self-planned contraption when they are addressed by the lady of the house, who is also seated at the head of the great long table. Welcome to my party, she says with feigned warmth and a half smile. So glad you can make it. Please, have a seat. A raucous grumbling ensues and a few shredded attendees play musical chairs so as to make room for the troupe. When the actors are properly seated, only then does the lady of the house sit down, and the army of servants at her disposal appears from out of the side doors to tend the guests. A feast is brought out and placed in front of the soaked and deathly cold wanderers. Shivering down their food, little conversation goes around the table, aside from grunts and short, high-pitched chirps, followed by suspiciously distasteful fumes circulating in the air, smelling much like rotten posies. Little by little, the men's bodies begin to warm along with their temperaments. We thank you very much for your kindness, the leader of the group shouts across the table toward the demon who just yawns in response. We thank you for, yes, I heard you the first time, and you're all very welcome, the sorceress finally responds. And happy Valpurgis not to you all, she replied. She continues, narrowing her gaze upon her new guest after scanning the table. I'm so glad that you all will be staying and joining me for many holidays to come. Oh, think of the entertainment, she proceeds in evident speculation. Won't it be lovely? The thespian's confusion at the statement soon turns to sluggish thought and violent muscle spasms as their limbs lock up and all 4 are rendered immobile, their breasts reduced to shallow mimicries of their former selves. Slumped in their chairs, all they can do is blink their eyes frantically in panic. Don't worry, one of the shrouded people who identifies himself as a certain Mr. Pinklecoat says to Johann's still body, You'll be safe, you're necromantius now. He finishes patting him on the back. After all the guests leave, the men are left at the table amidst a decidedly different organ melody than what had seemed customary before, eerily silent in context and depressed in key. The men are little aware that a funeral is being played out right in front of their exhausted eyes, and before retiring to bed, the hostess shows a little compassion and informs their new prisoners of their fate. Your bodies are under permanent paralysis, she tells them, and when they finally starve out and die from lack of water, you'll be under my complete control. Now, guten Nacht. The organ music goes from despair to desolation, and for the first time the troupe's playwright is able to see its producer, a ghostly man, his body nothing more than a faint glowing phantasm, whose head hangs so limply in sorrow that he may never look